Hello, students, and thank you for selecting this career interview. I am here today with Arielle Toelke, who has volunteered her time to talk about her career. So, Arielle, if you could tell us a bit about what you do, as well as what steps you had to take to get to where you are now.
Sure, I'm a makeup artist and I mostly work in film and television. I will often run the makeup department on certain shows, and it was a crazy journey to get here. I moved to New York. Before I moved to New York, I got a job working at the Lancome counter for a few months at a mall, which is great training because you get to work with anybody and everybody. They just want to get makeup done at the counter. And then I moved to New York in 2004. I waited tables and bartended for a while. And throughout that time, I just tried to build my portfolio as much as I could. So I took a ton of free jobs. I worked on a lot of student films. And I connected to these people and these projects through Craigslist. And then there was another application or app or website that posted just film jobs called Mandy.com. I don't know if it's still around. And I would just answer sort of like looking for a makeup artist for this photo shoot, or looking for a makeup artist for this random project. And I would just sort of said yes to everything. And my boss at the restaurant was cool. If I had something going on, I sometimes could reschedule things, or I would do a photo shoot during the day and then, work a shift at the restaurant at night. And through that, I sort of it was a long journey. I thought I wanted to work in fashion. I got really disenchanted with the fashion industry really fast. I love fashion. I don't want to do makeup in fashion. I fell in love with special effects, which led me to, shortly after I quit my restaurant job, I got an internship at a practical special effects shop. So I did things like, it was atmospheric effects. So rain, wind, prop weapons, fog, confetti, breakaway glass. So I did all sorts of things, like I learned how to fix rain bars. I operated a milling machine for these flaming arrows for that Cirque du Soleil show Ka. I organized breakaway glass bottles. I color coded the confetti. I sort of just did all of these different things. And at the same time, I was there a few days a week, and I would pick up, sorry, 1 second. Hi, Dad. Um, I would pick up days, doing this little makeup job or that little makeup job. So I was sort of all over the place. And, you know, I would just continue to work, and those free jobs turned into jobs that I was making $50 a day for, or $100 a day for. And you sort of keep working with the same people, and as everybody's sort of growing up and getting better and better jobs, you sort of grow up with them. I had a short stint. I worked for an artist as a studio assistant for a little while, making a lot of molds. And then I was also doing a lot of prop fabrication for other smaller films and making my own special effects. So I had a little special effects studio for a while. I made a lot of special effects for the projects I was working on, and all those little projects finally led to me doing makeup for smaller independent films. And then in 2011, I got into the makeup union. So it's a union for hairdressers and hairstylists, and they don't help you get work, but they protect you. And so, when I go in on a job under the standard contracts, it protects me, so I can't get paid lower than what the standard rate is. They make sure that I eat on time, that I get breaks. We have health insurance and a pension and all the other things that come along with the union. And so since 2011, I've been very, very lucky, and I've worked on tons of things.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like being in a part of the art community has really opened you up to all, like, so many different opportunities. It sounds like you really had exposure to all different areas of the art industry, so which is pretty incredible and has brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, I think having, definitely going to art school and taking like a foundry class where I learned some mold making and sort of a metal casting definitely helped me when I was making and fabricating special effects. Of course, there was a lot of things for me to learn. There's so many things for me to learn, but it definitely gave me a leg up where I understood, basic fabrication and things like that. And, getting my hands dirty with a lot of different materials and all of those sculpting classes and all of those figure drawing classes and figure painting classes, translated into later on. I remember one project, they had finished filming, and the actor had gone back home overseas, and they needed, I guess he got shot in the head in the movie, and so they were shooting him sort of dead in the coffin, and they gave me a bunch of pictures, and they said, we need you to sculpt his head, like with the wound in it, right? And so all of those skills that I had, right, all of those sculpting skills, all of those drawing and all of those painting skills, I was able to sculpt a head, make a mold of it, cast it in silicone, and punch all the hair into it, to make it look as lifelike, also dead as possible.
Right, right. You had to jump into action, call back on your old skills. That's
Right.
cool. So currently you work as a professional makeup artist in film and television. Could you walk us through your typical day?
Sure. I mean, a lot of days we get up very early. There's some days we have to be at work, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, because we have to get everybody ready through hair and makeup for the most part before we start filming the first scene. So all of the actors that are in that first scene, they generally like to have everybody completely finished by the time they get to set for rehearsal, when the whole crew is called in. And then that's our time to have breakfast and sort of clean up and get ready for the rest of the day. And then, it can be anywhere from, if it's a day with a lot of different scenes and a lot of different actors, we might be on set covering our actors, and making sure, between, every sort of camera angle, we usually go in and touch people up. Some people need more than others, depending on what sort of makeup they have on. If it's somebody who's eating and drinking in a scene and they have lipstick on, then we might have to go in every single time to check that and make sure there's, no lipstick that's gotten on teeth or on the side of the face. Or if, it's maybe like a fight scene and somebody gets punched in the face and they have to spit blood, that's something that we have to go in and we have to constantly, reset that. Or, sometimes it's just two people walking down the street and the weather's perfect and you kind of don't have to do anything, but you have to be there in case somebody needs a tissue, a dental floss, or they get something in their eye, or, they, they might want you there for moral support. So, we're kind of the first, we're the first people that the actors see in the morning. So they come in and we sort of set the tone for the day. So we always try to make it really warm and inviting. And if somebody wants to talk, we can engage in conversation. If they don't want to talk, then we don't. And then, at some point during the day, we break for lunch. After lunch, we usually do a whole round of touch-ups. And then we sort of kind of repeat what's, happening in the rest of, what we did in the morning and the rest of the day. Maybe there's an actor that's starting after lunch. So, somebody in the department, it's never just one person, you need, depending on the size of the show, anywhere between 2 and, there's days where you might hire 20 extra makeup artists because you have a giant background day and maybe you're shooting a movie that takes place in 1970s and everybody needs to have the right facial hair, right? So we have to put mustaches and sideburns on people. So, a day can be anywhere between, 2 people kind of sitting at home talking to each other to, we're out on the streets shooting, I don't know, something wild and crazy, or, if there's stunts, and we have stunt doubles, we have to make those doubles look like the actors that we're shooting. And then at the end of the day, we sort of kind of assess what's going to happen for the next day, pack up, and hopefully we get enough sleep.
Right. That's probably questionable some days. It sounds like such a busy day. So what do you love most about your job?
Oh, I love so many things about this job. I love that I get to be, I get to be really creative. Every day is totally different. Even if you're painting the same faces every day, you might be, on the top floor of some building that nobody's ever been to in New York City, right? Like we sort of have this wild access to locations that so many people don't, or, we're shooting something in Carnegie Hall, right? And we get to be on the stage in Carnegie. So we get to experience all of these locations in a way that a lot of people don't get to experience them. I get to work with so many amazing people. I get to work with, a great team of people, like within the makeup department. I come to work and I get to work with my friends every day, and then when the job is over, I either can continue working with those friends or I can work with a different set of friends, and meet new people. So it's always changing. There's so much fun sort of design work that goes into it. You know, Sometimes, you might do a scene where somebody gets beat up and they get a black eye. And then you have to track how that black eye heals over an episode or 3 episodes. So there's like a lot of design and thought that has to go into that. Maybe a character has a lot of tattoos that you get to design, facial hair, mustaches. So there's, some days, listen, you just go in and you make sure somebody's not too shiny and they have lip balm and Altoids, right? But then there's days where you kind of get to use that whole toolkit that you've sort of, have in your wheelhouse that you get to like pull from, right? So I love that I can work 5 months and then take 2 months off. So there's a lot of things about the job that I really love.
That's great. So, if there were a student watching this video and maybe they themselves have some true interest in becoming a makeup artist, what would you say are some skills that are really necessary to be successful in this job? And whether that's those soft skills, like, just being able to talk to people, or those more trainable skills, what do you feel are most important?
I think be able to read a room, I think, is very important. If you walk into a trailer in the morning and everybody wants to just kind of lay here with their, the actors want to keep their eyes closed and they want to just have it super chill in the morning. You don't want to come in and start talking really loudly in a space. We're here to make the actors as comfortable as possible. I think just like common sense skills. I think anybody can train to be a makeup artist. Everybody can learn how to do an amazing cat eye eyeliner. Anybody can learn how to do a bruise if you work at it. I think, showing up on time, being really nice. I think, being a person that somebody wants to be around, I think for me, I have to spend, 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours with my crew, right? Like I don't want to be around people. I want to be around people that I really like to be around. So I think, you know, I think, and then of course being a good makeup artist on top of that always really helps, but I think if you have an interest in art and you have an interest in makeup or special effects, like all of those things you can learn how to do. You can train your eye to, you know, match color really well. Of course, some of those things are inherent. Some people are just born with great color sense, but I think you can learn all of that too. And just, I think, the really wanting to do it, because, there's working in the film and TV industry is really hard. It's hard on your body, and you have to just kind of really want to do it and be passionate about it. So I think finding something that, if you can find that part of the business that brings you joy and like why you really love it, and don't let all the other stuff bog you down, I think you could be really successful. I hope that was a good answer.
Thank you. No, it definitely was. I think I like your point. I think that it's important for kids to think about the fact that you can always get better at a certain technique or skill, but really having those people skills are
Don't be
incredibly
scared.
important. Yeah,
Well, and
kindness is never overrated. Like, kindness is so important, and it's going to keep people wanting to spend time with you and therefore want to hire you again. I think it's just so important.
right. And I mean, and I'm, as a makeup artist, I'm always learning, and I take opportunities when I work and meet, new people. I'm always, oh, what's that product you're using? Oh, how are you using it? I'm constantly curious. And I think being constantly curious, um, and wanting to learn is just going to make you better no matter what.
That's great. So on the flip side of that, what are some challenges for your job?
Um, well, on the flip side of, being a nice person, sometimes you work with people that aren't so nice, and you sort of have to just navigate that in whatever capacity that is, depending on whether, that's somebody that works closely with you in your department and another department in production, if somebody's making your job more challenging than it needs to be. Sometimes, you might get an actor that's really difficult. Maybe not, they're not necessarily a bad person or a mean person, but they could just be really difficult, and you have to be able to navigate that without, throwing your brush down and walking out of the room. So I think the hours can be really, really hard. I would say the biggest complaint in our industry right now is just that our hours are incredibly grueling. Sometimes we leave work and we have to be back at work 9 hours later. And because the makeup department is always in before the rest of the production, we end up working, our hours are much longer than most other departments. So I think that is, I think that's really challenging. I nap during lunch, so that's sort of how I've figured out to make those hours work for me, is to sort of, take a break when I need a break.
Right, right. So, what is your work environment like?
Well, I mean, we show up to work when we're on location, or some jobs, we work in a trailer, and I can show you. This is a little bit of a trailer. It looks a little empty right now, but this is
So the actors will come into that trailer, take a seat, and that is where you do your work for the day. And that, well,
yeah,
and like you said, you might need to go out on scene with them too to touch
right.
up.
And then every actor will have a bag with their name on it with all the products we use for the actor in that bag. And then we take that bag to set with us. And, a box of tissues, maybe other things that we might need during the day. We all have our own chairs, and we bring our own chairs to set. If you don't have a chair, there's no place to sit down. Sometimes we're just shooting on the street. Um, so yeah, we pack it all up, and we all have our systems for bringing things to set, and we're there on set all day. So, and that could be anywhere from, if it's in the rain, we're in the rain. If it's really hot and sunny outside, we're in the hot sun, trying to find a shady spot or sitting there under an umbrella. Yeah, which is also kind of the fun part about the job too.
Right. It's a little something different every day. It could be
Yeah,
your work environment is wherever you're needed.
right. And then sometimes we're on a stage where there's a built set. Um, so every production usually has at least a few stage days where they'll build a set. If there's a location, let's say, you're shooting something and there's the lead family, usually their apartment will be on the set, and it's built in a way where the walls come away so you can get different camera angles in places and things like that. So um, you know depending on the show, sometimes you're shooting in the stage a third of the time, half of the time, part of the time.
Got it. Thank you. So this question might be a bit tough because, not necessarily for you or unless you want to share, but in general, if someone were thinking of being a makeup artist, what would be the salary ranges? And are there opportunities for advancement?
I mean, it really depends on what you want to do as a makeup artist. If you want to work in the fashion industry, there's not a lot of money in it unless you have an agent, and that agent is getting you really big advertising campaigns. Um, if you want to work in just special effects, you might be working in a shop, and your rate, depending on the project, could be anywhere between $50 an hour and up. Or maybe it's if you're building some sort of prop, it's whatever. I mean, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, like a severed hand, like what you would charge to fabricate a severed hand, right? A couple $100 or something like that. And then depending on the scale of the movie, everything is sort of depending on the budget of the project. There's a separate scale for each of that, and it could range anywhere from $25 an hour to $65 an hour and up.
Thank you.
If you're a personal makeup artist to somebody, I know my friends were working on something recently, and the personal rate was like $90 an hour. So depending on the project.
Yeah, wide range depending on what you're looking to do, what you're hired to do. And
Yeah,
it sounds like a job like this comes down to hustle too. Like how much are you willing to put in and work
sure.
to make that extra money?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of makeup artists that just do weddings, and you can show up, and you could do a wedding for $500, or you could do a wedding for $5,000. Depending on how many people and what your sort of clientele is for that business.
Right. Thank you. So the final question is, were there any classes that you took as a middle school and high school student that relate to your career now?
I just think being exposed to the arts and taking art classes. I mean, I remember my senior year of high school, I didn't take any math or science classes. I I filled it all with art classes, and I don't know if there was anything sort of specific other than just being really always interested in the arts. I have very creative parents. I'm very lucky, and they always sort of encouraged the arts. And I just think, I'm always drawing, always doodling, always making stuff, and I think just wanting to and knowing that I had to have a career using my hands. Um, just all of those sort of tactile skills sort of fed into all of that is going to help you.
Thank you. I just really want to thank you for your time. You are obviously a very busy person and you have a lot on your plate and we just appreciate you taking the time to tell our students a bit about your career. And we also appreciate you offering your email address so that students can follow up and ask questions. I know that you had mentioned in the beginning when you moved to New York, but I wanted to let these kiddos know that you went to Chatham High School, which is right around the corner from us. So when you're saying New York, you mean New York City, but you are a local girl and kids, you're from around here too. And I just think it's nice to see someone who's from around this area who's really doing some big things. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was great. And I hope that some of you out there feel really inspired.